The Lunari dominion stretched across 1,000 worlds, a civilization older than most stars in their sky. Their capital world, Verelion, shone like a jewel in the void, its cities built from crystal towers that sang softly in the wind. At the heart of it stood the Crystal Palace, where Queen Verelia ruled with calm grace and a mind sharper than the brightest blade. For centuries, the Lunari had believed themselves unmatched. They valued beauty, order, and reason above all else. To them, emotions were wild storms that made lesser species reckless and dangerous, and none were considered more reckless than humans. When the Galactic Union first spoke of Earth's admission, the Lunari had refused. They said humans were too violent, too unpredictable, too emotional. Yet something had begun to change in recent years. Human explorers had ventured into Lunari space to help rebuild war-torn worlds, offering aid without demand. Their technology was primitive, but their will, unbreakable. So for the first time in history, the Lunari Queen agreed to meet a human in person. The announcement sent ripples through the Empire. Many were outraged. A savage? One counselor hissed. A death-worlder? In the sacred halls? But Queen Verelia simply said, "Sometimes light is born from chaos. I wish to see what kind of light humanity carries." And so preparations began. The morning of the meeting arrived. Twin suns rose above Verelion, filling the palace halls with golden light. Thousands of Lunari nobles gathered in the grand chamber, their silver robes glittering under the crystal ceiling. The air hummed with anticipation and disapproval. At the far end of the hall, upon her throne of woven glass and starlight, Queen Verelia sat silently. Her silver eyes reflected calm, but inside her heart a question echoed. Why does this meeting feel different? A sound broke the silence, the slow echo of boots on crystal floor. Every Lunari eye turned toward the massive entrance doors as they opened. A tall human man stepped inside, his step steady, his gaze calm. He wore no armor, only a simple black uniform with the insignia of Earth's United Fleet. He carried a small metallic case, no bigger than a book, in his gloved hands. This was Commander Elias Ward, humanity's chosen envoy. He stopped at the center of the hall where sunlight pooled like liquid gold. The nobles whispered, their voices sharp and judging. "So fragile," one murmured. "He looks lost," said another. But Elias didn't respond. His expression was peaceful, as if their words never touched him. He looked up at the Queen and bowed deeply. "Your Majesty," he said. His voice was quiet, but it carried through the hall like a clear note. "On behalf of the people of Earth, I bring you a gift, a piece of what we are." Queen Verelia studied him closely. She expected pride, arrogance, or fear, but she saw none of those things. His eyes, dark human eyes, and carried something strange, something warm. She could sense it even from her throne. "You bring a gift?" she said softly. "Humans often bring weapons disguised as gifts." Elias smiled faintly. "This one is harmless, my queen, yet it might change how you see us." He stepped forward slowly, carefully, and knelt before her throne. The hall grew so silent that even the hum of the palace seemed to pause. From his case he lifted a small crystal sphere. It glowed faintly with golden light like a captured sunrise. "I present to you," he said, "the heart of Sol." Queen Verelia leaned forward, curiosity flickering in her eyes. The Lunari were a telepathic race, attuned to the emotions of others. The faint warmth she felt from the sphere was unlike anything she'd ever sensed. "What does it do?" she asked. Elias met her gaze. "It doesn't do anything, Your Majesty, it shows. It holds a fragment of who we are, our hopes, dreams, and memories. It's not made for war, but for understanding." For a long moment the Queen didn't move. The nobles watched in disapproval, whispering warnings that this might be human trickery. But her heart told her otherwise. With a slow, graceful motion, she extended her hand. The human looked up at her one last time, then gently placed the glowing sphere into her hands. And at that moment, time seemed to stop. The world around her blurred. The golden light of the heart of Sol pulsed softly, and her breath caught. In a heartbeat, she was no longer sitting on her throne. She was seeing, feeling, everything through another's eyes. She saw an ocean world under a blue sky, with waves roaring against stone cliffs. She saw children laughing as they ran through fields of yellow flowers. She saw cities shining at night, people working, helping, rebuilding. She saw soldiers holding hands before battle, tears in their eyes but courage in their hearts. And through it all, the same feeling pulsed like a heartbeat. Hope. When she blinked, tears formed on her silver lashes. She had never cried before. Lunari eyes were not made for tears, yet one rolled down her cheek, glowing faintly in the golden light. The chamber around her gasped. They could all feel it. The Queen's energy, once calm and distant, now burned with something unfamiliar. Emotion. She looked down at the sphere in her trembling hands and whispered, "What is this?" "What have you given me?" Ilias spoke softly. "A mirror, Your Majesty. It doesn't show power or perfection. It shows what makes us human, our ability to keep walking no matter the storm." The Queen lowered her gaze, her hand still glowing around the sphere. "You let me feel your world," she said. "Your laughter, your pain, your will to live. No technology I know can do this." Elias nodded. "It's not technology. It's the heart of our people. We call it empathy." The nobles began murmuring again, uneasy. To them, emotion was a weakness. But the Queen felt something awaken inside her. Something ancient, something alive. It was not weakness. It was strength in a different form. "You risked much to bring this to me," she said quietly. "I did," Elias replied, "but not because I want anything from you. I only wanted you to see us, not as monsters, not as chaos, but as beings trying to find our place in this vast galaxy." For a moment, their eyes met again. It was not romance, not magic, but recognition. Two lives, two species divided by stars, sharing a single truth. The Queen stood. "You have my gratitude, Commander. You may keep your life and your honor. The heart of Sol will be studied with care. You will remain here until my council decides your fate." "As you wish," he said, bowing again. She watched as guards escorted him away, still holding the glowing crystal close to her chest. The warmth did not fade. It pulsed with quiet life as though it had found a new heartbeat. Hers. When the hall was empty, Queen Veralia sat alone, the chamber bathed in the sphere's soft light. She could still see the human's steady gaze in her mind. For the first time she felt uncertainty. For the first time she felt curiosity not as a tool but as a longing. She whispered to herself, "Humans, so fragile yet so full of light. What are you really, Elias Ward?" The heart of Sol pulsed in answer, faint and steady, like the beating of a distant heart across the stars. The great halls of the Crystal Palace were silent the next morning. The golden light of Verelian's twin suns streamed through the high glass arches, casting long shadows across the marble floor. Servants moved quietly, afraid to disturb their queen's thoughts. For the first time in living memory, Queen Veralia had locked herself away in her private chamber, with the heart of Sol. She sat alone at her crystal desk, her pale hands resting near the glowing sphere. Its golden light reflected softly on her face. No matter how long she stared at it, the warmth did not fade. It pulsed like a living thing, like it could feel her presence. She whispered, "Show me again," and the light obeyed. For a brief second she was back in that vision, the sea, the laughter, the fire of life that seemed endless. She felt the heartbeat of humanity again. It filled her with emotions she didn't understand. Joy, sadness, and hope all mixed together. When the vision faded, she breathed out slowly. Her hands trembled. She had seen many powerful relics in her lifetime, but none had ever done this. None had made her feel. A soft chime came from the door. Her attendant, Lady Soral, entered and bowed deeply. "My queen, the council awaits your presence in the Hall of Reason. They demand an explanation about the human artifact." Veralia nodded. "I will attend shortly." When she arrived, the Hall of Reason was already crowded. 12 counselors stood in a half-circle, their expressions sharp and cold. At the center of the room stood Commander Elias Ward, surrounded by guards. His wrists were bound in silver cuffs, a gesture of control, not cruelty. Counselor Rune, the eldest among them, spoke first. "Your Majesty, we have studied the object briefly. It has no known power source, no weapon signature, and yet it emits emotional energy. This is unnatural, dangerous." Another added, "It could be a trap, a way to manipulate your mind." The Queen's voice was calm but firm. "If it were a weapon, I would not be standing here now. The heart of Sol does not destroy. It reveals." The council exchanged uneasy glances. Elias looked up, his voice quiet. "It's not magic or trickery. It's a bridge. Humans built it to share what we feel, because sometimes words are not enough. Emotions are chaos, Counselor Rune snapped. We abandoned them long ago for a reason. Varelia turned to him. And yet perhaps in abandoning them we lost something greater. The hall fell silent. The Queen's words carried weight, and the counselors dared not interrupt her. She turned to Elias. Tell us more about this heart. How was it made? Elias hesitated, then nodded. It was made on Earth, in a place we call the Sol Research Center. It's a mix of human technology and something we discovered inside an ancient meteorite that fell near our oceans. The crystal stores memory, emotion, and music in patterns of light. Music? Asked one of the younger counselors, puzzled. Yes, Elias said softly. Every human emotion can be turned into sound. The heart of Sol contains the songs of millions, voices of people who dreamed, fought, and loved. When someone touches it, it lets them feel what those people felt. The Queen listened closely, fascinated. So when I held it, I felt the essence of your world. Elias nodded. Exactly. It's not meant to change you, Your Majesty. It's meant to let you understand us. For a moment, no one spoke. The Queen's expression softened. And what do you wish in return for this understanding? Nothing, Elias said. We ask for nothing. Only that you see us. Not as monsters, not as threats, but as beings who are trying to survive. Just like you. The words struck something deep inside the Queen. For thousands of years, the Lunari had believed themselves above all others. Yet here stood a human. A simple man speaking with humility that felt pure. But before she could reply, Counselor Rune stepped forward angrily. Your Majesty, this is dangerous idealism. The humans' world is violent and unstable. Their history is full of war. They cannot be trusted. Elias raised his head, meeting Rune's gaze. You are not wrong. We have fought, yes, but we also rebuild. We heal. We learn. Every scar we carry teaches us how to be better. That is what the heart of Sol represents. Not perfection, but the will to keep going. The hall fell quiet again. Even the guards looked uncertain. Queen Varelia's eyes lingered on Elias for a long moment. Then she said, remove his cuffs. The guards hesitated. The Queen's tone became sharp. Now, they obeyed, freeing the human's hands. Elias bowed gratefully. After the meeting ended, the Queen asked Elias to walk with her through the palace gardens, a vast place filled with glowing trees and silver rivers that sang softly in the wind. You spoke of music, she said as they walked. Our kind abandoned it centuries ago. It was seen as a distraction from logic. That's a shame, Elias replied. Music is a language of the soul. It connects us even when we can't understand each other's words. She smiled faintly. Perhaps that is why your heart touched me so deeply. It spoke without speaking. As they walked, the Queen asked questions about Earth, about human life, about what it meant to feel. Elias answered each with patience and honesty. When he spoke of human childhood, of laughter and learning, she smiled. When he spoke of war, of loss and rebuilding, her smile faded. When he spoke of love, not as desire, but as care, as devotion to another's well-being, she grew silent for a long time. Finally, she said, We Lunari feel the minds of others, but not their hearts. Perhaps that is why we never truly understood peace. Elias looked at her gently. Maybe peace begins when we start to understand each other. Later that night, the Queen returned to her chamber and placed the heart of Sol before her again. It pulsed softly, filling the room with golden light. She reached out and touched it. Visions returned, this time slower, gentler. She saw humans working together to rebuild cities after disaster. She saw families helping strangers. She saw a child offering food to an injured animal. She saw kindness born from pain. Tears formed again in her eyes. Suddenly she felt another presence, one faint, but there. She realized she could sense him, Elias. His thoughts were clear, peaceful. Somehow the heart had connected them. Through that faint link, she heard his voice in her mind. You see now what we mean by hope. She smiled softly and whispered, Yes, I see, but far across the palace, in the Hall of Reason, the council was not at peace. The Queen is changing, Rune said coldly. This human has infected her thoughts. Another replied, We must act before her emotions cloud her rule. They began to plan in whispers. Soon their jealousy and fear would ignite something far greater, a storm that could tear their empire apart. The next morning, Queen Varelia stood on the balcony overlooking the city. The suns rose high, painting the sky with shades of orange and silver. She held the heart of Sol in her hands, watching its light dance with the morning rays. For the first time, the world around her felt alive. The songs of the trees, the hum of the rivers, everything seemed to pulse in harmony. She spoke softly to herself. Maybe humans are not as different as we thought. Behind her, a soft voice replied, or maybe they are what we lost long ago. It was Lady Saral, her trusted attendant who had entered quietly. Be careful, my queen, Saral said gently. Their light is beautiful, but it could blind you. Virelia smiled faintly. Perhaps, but maybe we have lived too long in shadow. That night as the palace slept, the heart of Sol shone brighter than ever before. Its glow reached the highest tower, casting golden reflections across the stars. Unseen by the queen, deep within its core, a new pulse had begun, faint but growing stronger. It was the connection between two minds, two hearts, two worlds, the human and Lunari, beating in rhythm for the first time in history. And in the distance, something ancient stirred within the Lunari network, a force that did not welcome change. The days following the meeting were unlike anything the Crystal Palace had ever known. The heart of Sol had become the center of every whisper in the Lunari Empire. Courtiers, scientists, and priests all spoke about it, some with wonder, others with fear. Queen Virelia's decision to keep the human envoy alive and free to walk the palace gardens shocked everyone. To many, it was kindness. To others, it was madness. Still, the queen continued to visit Commander Elias Ward each day. They would walk through the glowing gardens or talk in the star viewing chamber. Their conversations were simple, about life, duty, and dreams. Yet through them an invisible bond grew stronger. For the first time, the queen smiled more. Her voice carried warmth instead of cold logic. Her attendants noticed the change. Some found it beautiful, others found it dangerous. One evening, as the suns dipped below the horizon, the queen stood beside the balcony railing, looking down at the golden city below. The heart of Sol rested on the table behind her, glowing softly like a sleeping star. Elias stood nearby, his hands folded behind his back. You're troubled, Your Majesty, he said quietly. Virelia turned to him. My people don't understand what I felt when I held the heart. They think emotion is weakness. They fear it. Elias nodded slowly. Humans once thought the same. Long ago we tried to hide from our feelings. But we learned that emotions don't make us weak and they make us alive. She studied him with calm eyes. And yet your world is full of conflict. Yes, Elias admitted. But even through conflict we try to find peace. We fall but we rise again. That's what your people saw in the heart of Sol. Not perfection but endurance. For a moment the queen was silent. She looked out at the twin moons rising over the horizon. Endurance, she repeated softly. Perhaps that is what we've forgotten. Unseen by them, hidden behind the great crystal pillars, a shadow listened. Counselor Rune. His face was cold as ice. He had warned the council that the human would poison the queen's thoughts. And now, as he watched her stand beside the Earth envoy, speaking softly under moonlight, he felt his fears confirmed. When he left the balcony, his mind was made up. The queen must be protected, even from herself. The next morning, the queen attended a council session. The hall was full and tension hung heavy in the air. Counselor Rune stepped forward, bowing low but speaking with steel in his voice. Your Majesty, we fear that the artifact you call the Heart of Sol is altering your mind. You are changing. The queen met his gaze calmly. Yes, I am changing. I am learning. That is precisely the danger, he said. The Lunari have ruled by logic for thousands of years. Emotion clouds reason. It blinds judgment. The human has infected you with their instability. The hall murmured in agreement. The queen raised her hand and silence fell. Counselor Rune, she said gently, have you ever wondered if logic alone is enough to rule a heart? If reason alone can heal pain. Rune's expression darkened. We do not need hearts, Your Majesty. We have order. Then perhaps, the queen said quietly, it is order that has chained us. Her words spread through the hall like a shockwave. That night, Elias was confined to his quarters for security reasons. The queen protested, but the council insisted it was only temporary, for the safety of the throne. When he was alone, Elias paced the room. Through the window, he could see the city glowing with blue lights. He could sense that something was wrong. The warmth of the heart, which he could always faintly feel, now seemed distant, almost afraid. Suddenly, a soft knock came at his door. When he opened it, a figure slipped inside, wearing a simple servant's cloak and hood. For a moment, Elias thought it was one of the attendants. Then she pulled down her hood. It was Queen Veralia. "Your Majesty," he began, surprised. "Quiet," she said quickly. "They're watching. I don't have much time." She stepped closer, her eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "The Council plans to take the Heart of Sol and destroy it. They believe it's a weapon meant to control me." Elias's face tightened. "They don't understand what it is. If they try to destroy it, the energy inside could react. It might release all its stored emotion at once." Veralia nodded. "I know, that's why I need to stop them." She took a deep breath. "But they no longer listen to me. They think I've been corrupted by human emotion." Elias looked at her for a long moment. "Then what will you do?" She hesitated, then said softly, "I will show them the truth. The same truth you showed me." The following day, the council gathered again, this time in the Hall of Crystals. The Queen stood before them, the Heart of Sol resting in her hands. Run and the others looked uneasy. "Your Majesty," he said carefully, "we must confiscate that artifact for examination." The Queen shook her head. "No, you will not study it. You will feel it." Before anyone could stop her, she held the heart high. Its golden light spread through the hall, touching every corner. The air shimmered. The counselors gasped as the light flowed into them. Not burning, not hurting, but showing for a few seconds. Every Lunari in the chamber saw what she had seen. The oceans, the laughter, the pain, the hope. They felt human hearts beating in rhythm with their own. When the light faded, some fell to their knees in silence. Others wept quietly, overwhelmed by emotions they hadn't felt in centuries. But not Rune. He stood trembling with fury. "This is manipulation, sorcery. You've infected them all." He raised his hand, summoning guards. "Take her. Take the human. And destroy that thing." Chaos broke out. Guards rushed into the chamber, but the Queen's loyal attendants stepped in their way. Voices shouted. The Heart of Sol pulsed brightly, reacting to the rising fear in the air. Elias, hearing the commotion, broke free from his quarters and ran toward the hall. As he entered, he saw Veralia surrounded by guards, her calm eyes full of determination. "Elias!" she called. He sprinted toward her just as Rune lunged forward to seize the heart. The Queen turned, clutching it to her chest. "Stop!" Elias shouted. "If you harm it, it could," but it was too late. Rune's hand struck the heart. A surge of golden light burst out, filling the entire chamber with a wave of energy. Everyone froze as memories and emotions exploded around them. Not words, but feelings. Rune staggered back, clutching his head as visions flooded his mind. Children laughing, humans rebuilding, people helping each other. He fell to his knees, tears in his eyes, unable to speak. When the light faded, the Heart of Sol floated gently back into the Queen's hands. Elias stood beside her, breathing heavily. The room was silent. Queen Veralia looked down at the heart, its light softer now, calmer, like it had exhaled after a storm. She turned to her council. "Do you see now?" she said softly. "This is not a weapon. It's a mirror. It shows us what we are and what we could be." No one answered. Even Rune, trembling on the floor, could only bow his head in silence. That night, the Queen and Elias met again in the garden. The moons shone brightly above, their light mingling with the gentle glow of the heart resting between them. "You risked everything today," Elias said. "So did you," she replied. "But it was worth it. For the first time, my people saw truth instead of fear." Elias smiled faintly. "And what will they do now?" Veralia looked toward the horizon. "Some will change, some will not. But the first step has been taken." The wind rustled through the glowing leaves. For a moment they stood in silence. The Queen placed her hand gently on the Heart of Sol. "When you gave this to me, Commander Ward," she said softly, "you did not just bring a gift. You brought a light my world had forgotten." Elias bowed his head slightly. "Sometimes," he said, "light must travel through darkness before it's seen." The Queen smiled faintly. The golden glow reflected in her eyes. "Then let us make sure it never fades again." Far above them, the stars burned brighter, as if listening. But deep within the palace, in secret chambers below, the last loyalists of Rune gathered. Their whispers carried through the shadows. "The Queen is no longer one of us," one voice said. "If emotion rules her, she will doom us all." And so the seeds of rebellion were sown, even as the first light of understanding began to rise. The great hall of the Varelian Empire had never been this quiet before. Every alien noble, soldier, and scholar watched in silence as Queen Elara stood frozen, the strange human gift resting in her trembling hands. The faint glow from the crystal cube reflected in her silver eyes, and for a long moment she didn't breathe. Captain Ethan Ward stood before her, his posture straight, his expression calm but respectful. His human uniform, clean, simple, and without any symbols of dominance, contrasted sharply with the heavy, jeweled robes of the Varelians. Yet somehow he seemed to command the room's attention more than anyone else. "What is this?" the Queen whispered finally, her voice unsteady. "It's a memory crystal," Ethan explained softly. "It contains images, voices, and stories from Earth. I thought you should see them for yourself." Her hand shook slightly. "A human gift." "Meant for me?" Ethan nodded once. "For you and for your people. It's not a weapon. It's a piece of who we are." Around them, murmurs spread among the alien courtiers. Most had expected threats or demands from the human envoy. Not this. A quiet act of peace. Queen Elara turned to her chief advisor, an elder named Solon. His skin shimmered with faint scales and his eyes glowed faintly blue. "Activate it," she commanded. The elder hesitated. "Your Majesty, we should test it first," she raised a hand. "No, I want to see it now." As Solon touched the top of the cube, light filled the chamber. A soft humming echoed, and the air itself seemed to shimmer. Images began to appear in the air, floating like ghosts made of color and light. The aliens gasped. They saw oceans, vast and endless, with waves crashing under the golden sun. They saw forests alive with birds and wind. They saw snow, laughter, and children running through green fields. They saw cities glowing at night, people of every color and age walking together, smiling, helping, dreaming. The Queen's eyes widened. "Are these all humans?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Yes, just normal people. Not soldiers, not diplomats, just humanity, living." The Varelians were a proud and ancient species. They had conquered many worlds and believed themselves the center of the galaxy's civilization. But as they watched the holographic visions from Earth, a deep silence filled the hall. The human gift was more powerful than any weapon. It showed life. It showed love. It showed hope. When the final image faded, a sunrise over a blue ocean, the Queen stood completely still. Then she looked at Ethan and there were tears in her eyes. I never imagined your world was like this," she said softly. "We were told humans were violent, crude, unstable." Ethan's voice was calm but steady. "We can be, but we are also kind, curious, and loyal. We fight, yes, but not always for power. Sometimes we fight to protect what we love." The Queen looked down at the crystal in her hands. The glow was gentle now, pulsing slowly like a heartbeat. And for the first time, she felt something shift inside her. The council meeting later that night was full of confusion. Many Varelian lords demanded answers. "It's a trick," shouted one of the generals. "Humans are dangerous. That display was meant to weaken our resolve. They are showing peace to hide their fangs," another added. "We must act before they strike." But others were not so sure. Some of the younger nobles had seen the human images and felt something unfamiliar. Admiration. "Maybe they are not like the others," one whispered. "Maybe the humans truly wish for understanding." The Queen listened to them all. She sat on her throne, silent, her eyes distant. The human gift was placed beside her, still glowing faintly. Finally she stood. The entire room fell silent. "Enough," she said. Her voice was calm but strong. "We have been at war with fear for too long. The humans brought us a gift of peace, and all we can see is danger. Perhaps the real danger lies within us." The generals exchanged uncertain glances. No one dared interrupt her. She turned toward the great window that looked over her capital, a city of towers and shining bridges. "I saw something today," she continued. "Something we have forgotten. Humanity's strength does not come from their weapons. It comes from their hearts." Later that night, when the council was dismissed, Ethan was summoned to the Queen's private chamber. The air was calm. The stars of the Varelian sky shimmered outside the crystal dome ceiling. Ilara stood near the balcony, the memory crystal in her hands once more. "When I touched this," she said quietly, "I felt something. As if time itself paused. The energy within. It resonated with me." Ethan nodded slowly. "Human technology can't do that intentionally. Maybe it's more about what it makes you feel." She looked at him, her expression unreadable. "You humans feel deeply. It's strange to us. We were taught emotion is weakness. But when I saw those faces, those places, your oceans, your skies, I wondered if we have lost something important." "You haven't lost it," Ethan replied. "It's still there. Maybe hidden, maybe forgotten, but not gone." The Queen turned the crystal over in her palm. "You risked much bringing this to me. You knew my generals would see it as a threat." "I had to try," he said simply, "because peace is worth the risk." For a long time neither spoke. The silence between them was not empty. It was full of understanding. Finally, Ilara placed the crystal gently on the table. "Captain Ward," she said softly, "you have given me something no one in this empire has ever dared offer, a glimpse of truth. I will not forget this." Ethan bowed slightly. "Then maybe, Your Majesty, this is the beginning of something new." But outside the palace, danger stirred. In the deep halls of the Virelian military complex, shadows moved. The war faction, furious at the Queen's new attitude, began plotting in secret. "They have poisoned her mind," one commander hissed. "The human must be removed before he destroys everything we built." Another nodded grimly. "The Queen's mercy will be our undoing. If she continues down this path, the Empire will crumble." They began to plan, and while the stars of the Virelian sky glittered peacefully above, the seeds of betrayal were already being sown below. Ethan did not know it yet, but his human gift had started more than a conversation. It had shaken an empire. The first light of Virelian's twin suns cast long golden rays across the crystal palace. The city shimmered like glass in the morning, but within its walls tension buzzed like a living thing. Queen Ilara stood in the center of the hall of crystals, the heart of Sol glowing faintly in her hands. Her silver eyes, once calm and detached, now held fire, a fire born from courage, understanding, and a strange human hope she could not explain. Around her, the rebellious faction of the council had gathered, their eyes full of distrust and anger. Their leader, Lord Siren, stepped forward, his armored hand outstretched. "Your Majesty," he said coldly, "you have been corrupted by the human. Surrender the artifact or the Empire will act without you." The Queen's hand tightened on the glowing crystal. "You misunderstand. The human did not corrupt me. He showed me what we have forgotten. You wish to rule through fear, but I will rule through truth." Siren's expression twisted with fury. "Truth will destroy us. We are strong because we are disciplined, because we do not let emotions rule our judgment. This gift is a weapon." Ethan Ward stepped forward, his human frame tall and steady. "No," he said firmly. "It is not a weapon. It is understanding. It is hope. And if you try to destroy it, the consequences will reach beyond you." The tension in the hall grew thicker, almost palpable. Every noble present felt the power radiating from the heart of Sol. The crystal did not hurt. It did not attack, but it demanded attention. It demanded recognition of what it represented. Siren lunged forward, attempting to seize the heart. Guards moved instinctively to restrain him. But before they could touch him, a golden light erupted from the crystal, filling the hall with a warm, pulsing energy. Every Lunari felt it, waves of emotion, of courage, of hope, washing over them like an ocean. Memories of humanity flashed before their minds. People caring for strangers, rebuilding cities after disasters, giving comfort to those in need. The light did not harm, but it could not be ignored. Lord Siren stumbled back, his armor reflecting the glow. He fell to his knees, tears forming in his glowing eyes. I see," he whispered, almost unable to speak. Queen Ilara stepped forward, calm and unwavering. "Do you see now? This is not a weapon of destruction. It is a mirror. It shows us what we are and what we could be." Some nobles wept quietly. Others dropped their heads in shame. Only a few remained unmoved, their pride still fighting the warmth within them. Ethan moved closer to the Queen. "It has to be shared," he said softly. "Not hidden. Let them all feel it." Ilara nodded. "Then let it be so." The Queen raised the heart of Sol high, and the light spread beyond the palace walls. It reached the streets of Varelion, into the towers and marketplaces, touching every citizen. For the first time, the Lunari people felt something foreign yet powerful: human empathy. Children laughed in wonder as the golden light brushed them. Workers paused in their tasks, staring at the glow with awe. Even the animals of the city, silver-winged creatures that usually avoided humans, approached the light without fear. It was more than beauty. It was connection. Back in the Hall of Crystals, Siren and his followers had fallen silent. The glow from the heart revealed not weakness, but strength, the strength to care, to forgive, and to act for the good of others. Queen Alara turned to Ethan. "You humans speak of courage in strange ways," she said, her voice soft but full of authority. "You fight not for glory but for hope. Perhaps this is the strength we have been missing." Ethan smiled faintly. "It is what we strive for, every day. Sometimes we fail, but we keep going." She held the heart closer to her chest. "Then we will keep it. Not for power, not for politics, but for understanding. This light will guide us and humanity if we let it." The days that followed were quiet but full of change. The council, humbled by the heart's power, agreed to place the artifact in the center of the Crystal Palace for all to see. Scholars and citizens came to touch it, to feel its glow, and to glimpse the hearts of humans. Ethan was named Ambassador of Understanding, his role to bridge the gap between Earth and the Varelian Empire. He taught the Lunari about human history, culture, and art, showing them that even a species considered primitive could inspire greatness. The Queen herself spent hours with the heart, often speaking quietly to Ethan about strategy, about philosophy, and about the future. The connection they shared was not just political, it was a true bond between species. For the first time, Lunari scientists realized that power did not only come from dominance or psychic strength. True strength could emerge from compassion, from hope, and from understanding another life completely. Months passed and Varelion transformed. The city that had once been ruled by fear became a center of learning and culture. Humans and Lunari worked together, exchanging knowledge and stories. The palace gardens bloomed brighter than ever, filled with plants from Earth and Varelion alike. Ethan watched from the balcony as children, both human and Lunari, played together under the twin suns. Queen Alara stood beside him, her hand resting lightly on the glowing heart of soul. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked. "Regret what?" she said, smiling faintly. "Bringing the gift here, showing my people to yours." The Queen shook her head. "No, you did not just give me a gift. You gave my people a new perspective, a way to see beyond fear and pride. We will never forget it." Ethan nodded, feeling a warmth he had not expected. It was more than respect or admiration. It was the quiet satisfaction of knowing that humanity's light had reached across the stars. Even Lord Siren, once the most skeptical and proud of the council, found himself changed. He approached the Queen one day, bowing low. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice steady but respectful. "I see now that we underestimated them, underestimated humanity. Their strength is not in their weapons, but in their hearts. Thank you for showing us the truth." Alara placed the heart in the center of the council chamber, where it would remain for all to witness. "Let this be a reminder," she said softly, "that understanding is more powerful than fear, and hope more lasting than pride." Years later, the alliance between Earth and the Varelian Empire grew stronger than anyone could have imagined. Trade, culture, and science flowed freely between worlds. Humans brought music, literature, and inventions. The Lunari shared knowledge of the stars, their psychic abilities, and their ancient wisdom. The heart of Sol remained at the palace, a living symbol of unity. Citizens from both worlds came to see it, to feel it, to learn that strength could come from compassion. Queen Alara often visited Ethan, speaking quietly about the future and the lessons they had learned together. One evening as the twin suns set, she held the heart gently in her hands. "When you placed this in my hands," she said softly, "I thought time had stopped. But now, I see that it began." Ethan smiled, looking at the golden glow of the crystal. "It begins with hope, Your Majesty, and once it starts, it never truly ends." The palace shimmered under the twin suns, the city below alive with light and laughter. The stars above watched quietly as humanity and the Lunari walked together, united by understanding, respect, and the gift of hope. And in that moment, the galaxy seemed just a little smaller, and the hearts of two species beat as one.